Biztosan nagyon keményen edz, hogy elérje a céljait.
He must train very hard to achieve his goals. He must train very hard to achieve his goals.
Soha nem szabad alábecsülnöd, milyen hatással vagy az emberekre.
You must never underestimate the impact you have on people. You must never underestimate the impact you have on people.
Megközelítőleg 10 gimnázium van ebben a városban.
There are approximately 10 high schools in this town. There are approximately 10 high schools in this town.
Mézen és kókuszsíron kívül szintén szükségünk van lazacra.
In addition to honey and coconut oil, we also need salmon. In addition to honey and coconut oil, we also need salmon.
Sajnos az online zaklatás gyakori jelenség.
Unfortunately, online harassment is a common phenomenon. Unfortunately, online harassment is a common phenomenon.
A zene jótékony hatással lehet a hangulatunkra.
Music can have a positive influence on our mood. Music can have a positive influence on our mood.
Kortól függetlenül bárki élvezheti a rendszeres sport előnyeit.
Anyone, regardless of their age, can reap the benefits of regular exercise. Anyone, regardless of their age, can reap the benefits of regular exercise.
Sok támogató szülő van egy fejlett társadalomban.
There are many supportive parents in a developed society. There are many supportive parents in a developed society.
Az alacsony önbecsülés hátrány lehet.
Low self-esteem can be a disadvantage. Low self-esteem can be a disadvantage.
Legyőzik a félelmeiket.
They overcome their fears. They overcome their fears.
Lehetővé teszi számomra, hogy több időt töltsek a lovaimmal.
It enables me to spend more time with my horses. It enables me to spend more time with my horses.
Az agresszív gyerekek gyakran zaklatják az osztálytársaikat.
Aggressive children often bully their classmates. Aggressive children often bully their classmates.
Nem hibáztathatsz azért, amit te tettél.
You can't blame me for what you have done. You can't blame me for what you have done.
Ez egy megvalósítható tervnek tűnik.
It seems to be a feasible plan. It seems to be a feasible plan.
Csak kevés tizenéves visszahúzódó az iskolámban.
Only few teenagers are reserved in my school. Only few teenagers are reserved in my school.
Néhány betegség örökletes.
Some diseases are hereditary. Some diseases are hereditary.
Az avokádó nagyon tápláló.
Avocados are very nutritious. Avocados are very nutritious.
A rossz idő miatt.
Due to the bad weather. Due to the bad weather.
Szerencsére van nálam egy kis pénz.
Fortunately, I have some money with me. Fortunately, I have some money with me.
Netbank segítségével.
With the help of internet banking. With the help of internet banking.
A reklámhirdetések rábeszélnek minket, hogy vegyünk dolgokat.
Advertisements persuade us to buy things. Advertisements persuade us to buy things.
A nyári leárazások alatt.
During summer sales. During summer sales.
Nem vagyok hajlandó szükségtelen dolgokra kölcsönkérni pénzt.
I am not willing to borrow money for unnecessary things. I am not willing to borrow money for unnecessary things.
Nem akarok internetes csalás áldozatává válni.
I don't want to become a victim of online fraud. I don't want to become a victim of online fraud.
A pénzautomaták segítenek gyorsan készpénzhez jutni.
ATMs help us access cash quickly. ATMs help us access cash quickly.
Egy pénzautomatából pénzt kivenni.
Withdraw money from an ATM. Withdraw money from an ATM.
Ez a fantasztikus ház kétségkívül megéri az árát.
This gorgeous house is definitely worth its price. This gorgeous house is definitely worth its price.
Nem tudom, hogy igaz-e vagy nem.
I don't know whether it's true or not. I don't know whether it's true or not.
A leghatékonyabb módja az információkeresésnek.
The most effective way of searching for information. The most effective way of searching for information.
A mobiltelefonok hatalmas hatással vannak a közösségi életre.
Cell phones have a huge impact on social life. Cell phones have a huge impact on social life.
Az iskoláknak biztosítaniuk kell, hogy megvédik a diákjaikat a bűnözéstől.
Schools need to ensure that they protect their students from crime. Schools need to ensure that they protect their students from crime.
Soha nincsenek elvonási tünetei.
She never has withdrawal symptoms. She never has withdrawal symptoms.
Mint mindig, soha nincsenek előnyök hátrányok nélkül.
As always, there are no benefits without drawbacks. As always, there are no benefits without drawbacks.
A drogfüggőség tönkreteheti az egészséged.
Drug addiction can destroy your health. Drug addiction can destroy your health.
Faji megkülönböztetés az oktatási intézményekben.
Segregation in educational institutions. Segregation in educational institutions.
A bevándorlás előnyöket nyújt a befogadó országok számára.
Migration provides benefits for host countries. Migration provides benefits for host countries.
Velem ellentétben Kate egy társasági ember.
Unlike me, Kate is a sociable person. Unlike me, Kate is a sociable person.
Véletlenül találkoztunk Tommal a koncerten.
I ran across Tom at the concert. I ran across Tom at the concert.
Pénzpazarlás ételt kidobni.
It's a waste of money to throw away food. It's a waste of money to throw away food.
Tudod garantálni, hogy befejezed ezt a feladatot április 12-ére?
Can you guarantee that you finish this assignment by April 12th? Can you guarantee that you finish this assignment by April 12th?
Semmi értelme Jessica segítségét kérni.
It's useless asking Jessica for help. It's useless asking Jessica for help.
Pénzügyi szempontból.
From a financial point of view. From a financial point of view.
Valaminek a fontosságát hangsúlyozni.
Stress the importance of something. Stress the importance of something.
Szó szerint nincsenek fogai.
He literally doesn't have any teeth. He literally doesn't have any teeth.
Mert jól alkalmazkodott a körülményekhez Alaszkában.
Matt adapted well to the circumstances in Alaska. Matt adapted well to the circumstances in Alaska.
A csoki is és a torta is jó választás.
Either the chocolate or the cake is a good choice. Either the chocolate or the cake is a good choice.
Lehetőségem van gyakorolni az angolt.
I have the chance to practice my English. I have the chance to practice my English.
Ne tedd ki magad semmilyen veszélynek.
Don't expose yourself to any danger. Don't expose yourself to any danger.
A játékvezető kizárta a focistát a játékból.
The referee disqualified the football player from the game. The referee disqualified the football player from the game.
Egy kicsit kínosan érzem magam ebben a helyzetben.
I feel a bit awkward in this situation. I feel a bit awkward in this situation.
Napi rendszerességgel jár a megbeszélésekre.
He attends the meetings on a daily basis. He attends the meetings on a daily basis.
Az ábrándozás sokkal jobb, mint feladni az álmaidat.
Wishful thinking is much better than giving up your dreams. Wishful thinking is much better than giving up your dreams.
Egy szokatlan jelenség.
An unusual phenomenon. An unusual phenomenon.
Megbeszéltünk néhány fontos kérdést, konkrétan a környezetvédelmet és a levegőszennyezést.
We have discussed some important issues, namely environmental protection and air pollution. We have discussed some important issues, namely environmental protection and air pollution.
Időpontot kértem a nőgyógyászomtól.
I've made an appointment with my gynecologist. I've made an appointment with my gynecologist.
Liam beleegyezése nélkül.
Without Liam's consent. Without Liam's consent.
Hajlandó vagyok vállalni a kockázatot.
I'm willing to take the risk. I'm willing to take the risk.
Generációs szakadék a szülők és a gyerekek között.
Generation gap between parents and their children. Generation gap between parents and their children.
Kölcsönkérheted egy bizonyos időre.
You can borrow it for a certain period of time. You can borrow it for a certain period of time.
Megfelelő módon.
In an appropriate way. In an appropriate way.
Mindent figyelembe véve.
Taking everything into account. Taking everything into account.
Sürgősen szükségem van a döntésedre.
I urgently need your decision. I urgently need your decision.
Nyilvánvalóan nem ez a legjobb választás.
It is obviously not the best choice. It is obviously not the best choice.
Ami engem illet, tetszenek ezek a feltételek.
As for me, I like these conditions. As for me, I like these conditions.
Menük széles választékát tudják nyújtani.
They can provide a wide choice of menus. They can provide a wide choice of menus.
Tudsz egy jó hotelt ajánlani?
Can you recommend a good hotel? Can you recommend a good hotel?
Aláásni valaki terveit.
Undermine someone's plans. Undermine someone's plans.
Önbizalomhiány akadályozta meg abban, hogy elfogadja az állásajánlatot.
A lack of confidence prevented him from accepting the job offer. A lack of confidence prevented him from accepting the job offer.
Brandon gyakran túllépi a sebességhatárt.
Brandon often exceeds the speed limit. Brandon often exceeds the speed limit.
Ez az előző nyaralásunkra emlékeztet.
This reminds me of our previous holiday. This reminds me of our previous holiday.
Szándékosan elterelte a figyelmemet.
He deliberately distracted my attention. He deliberately distracted my attention.
Mindent figyelembe véve.
All things considered. All things considered.
Ez rád is vonatkozik.
It applies to you as well. It applies to you as well.
Chloe csak kertel.
Chloe is just beating around the bush. Chloe is just beating around the bush.
Fontolgatom, hogy veszek egy saját lakást.
I am considering buying my own apartment. I am considering buying my own apartment.
Sok türelmet igényel.
It requires a lot of patience. It requires a lot of patience.
Az egyensúlyt fenntartani a munka és a család között.
Maintain a balance between job and family. Maintain a balance between job and family.
Senki nem csapja be a barátait.
Nobody deceives their friends. Nobody deceives their friends.
Az elszántságod csodálatra méltó.
Your determination is admirable. Your determination is admirable.
Valamilyen okból meggondolta magát.
He changed his mind for some reason. He changed his mind for some reason.
Lemaradtak a bejelentésről.
They missed the announcement. They missed the announcement.
A közösségi oldalak hihetetlen kihatással vannak az emberekre.
Social media websites have an incredible impact on people. Social media websites have an incredible impact on people.
Óriási erőfeszítés.
An enormous amount of effort. An enormous amount of effort.
A főnök kifejlesztett egy új módszert.
The boss developed a new method. The boss developed a new method.
Hangsúlyt fektet arra, hogy minden szabályt betartson.
He puts emphasis on keeping all the rules. He puts emphasis on keeping all the rules.
Az emberek gyakran tiltakoznak egy új törvény ellen.
People often protest against a new law. People often protest against a new law.
A felmondás nem reális opció sok ember számára.
Quitting a job is unrealistic for many people. Quitting a job is unrealistic for many people.
A tudományos és technológiai kutatás segít megőrizni a környezetünket.
Technological and scientific research help preserve our environment. Technological and scientific research help preserve our environment.
Az internet lehetővé teszi, hogy kiszélesítsd a tudásod.
The internet enables you to expand your knowledge. The internet enables you to expand your knowledge.
Kiértékelted már az eredményeket?
Have you evaluated the results yet? Have you evaluated the results yet?
20 embernél többet nem tudunk elszállásolni.
We can't accommodate more than 20 people. We can't accommodate more than 20 people.
Nyilvánvalóan jó nyelvérzéke van.
Apparently, he has a talent for languages. Apparently, he has a talent for languages.
Mindig túloz, ha a szakmai fejlődéséről van szó.
He always exaggerates when it comes to his professional development. He always exaggerates when it comes to his professional development.
Mi életed legnagyobb teljesítménye?
What is the greatest achievement in your life? What is the greatest achievement in your life?
Sikeresnek bizonyult.
It turned out to be a success. It turned out to be a success.
Egy projekt kivitelezése.
The implementation of a project. The implementation of a project.
Mindig egyenlően osztja el a tortát.
She always divides the cake equally. She always divides the cake equally.
Elősegíti Jeremy karrierjének fejlődését.
It facilitates the development of Jeremy's career. It facilitates the development of Jeremy's career.
Egyenlően osztottuk meg a költségeket.
We shared the costs evenly. We shared the costs evenly.
Egészen biztos vagyok benne.
I'm absolutely certain. I'm absolutely certain.
Az előző mentorod.
Your former mentor. Your former mentor.
Sajnálatos módon a kár visszafordíthatatlan.
Sadly, the loss is irreversible. Sadly, the loss is irreversible.
Ezek az adatok nagy mértékben eltérnek az előzőektől.
These data considerably differ from the previous ones. These data considerably differ from the previous ones.
Drew kivételesen tehetséges a belső építészetben.
Drew is exceptionally talented in interior design. Drew is exceptionally talented in interior design.
Különleges alkalmakkor Bill csokornyakkendőt visel.
Bill wears a bow tie on special occasions. Bill wears a bow tie on special occasions.
A mozgásszegény életmód elhízáshoz vezethet.
A sedentary lifestyle can make you gain weight. A sedentary lifestyle can make you gain weight.
Ilyen események valószínűleg megtörténnek a jövőben.
Such events are likely to occur in the future. Such events are likely to occur in the future.
Nagy nyomás van az embereken a magas elvárások miatt.
There is a big pressure on people due to high expectations. There is a big pressure on people due to high expectations.
Nagyon idegesítő vizsgaeredményekre várni.
It's extremely frustrating to wait for exam results. It's extremely frustrating to wait for exam results.
A bizonytalanságtól sebezhetőnek érezheted magad.
Uncertainty can make you feel vulnerable. Uncertainty can make you feel vulnerable.
Ez a megközelítés furcsának tűnhet, mégis működik.
This approach may sound weird, but it works. This approach may sound weird, but it works.
Kétszer annyi pályázó, mint tavaly.
Twice as many applicants as last year. Twice as many applicants as last year.
Elérhető áron.
At a reasonable price. At a reasonable price.
Általában mindenhol jól teljesít.
Generally, he performs well everywhere. Generally, he performs well everywhere.
Ellenállhatatlan volt a kísértés.
The temptation was irresistible. The temptation was irresistible.
Köszönöm, hogy felhívtad a figyelmemet a közlekedési táblák fontosságára.
Thank you for calling my attention to the importance of traffic signs. Thank you for calling my attention to the importance of traffic signs.
Nem feltétlenül nehéz lépést tartani a mai divatirányzatokkal.
It's not necessarily hard to keep up with today's fashion trends. It's not necessarily hard to keep up with today's fashion trends.
Az építő jellegű idézetek motiválnak.
Constructive quotes inspire me. Constructive quotes inspire me.
A folyadékok az egész testedet hidratálják.
Fluids hydrate your whole body. Fluids hydrate your whole body.
Tájföldön a szállás sok turistának megfizethető.
Accommodation in Thailand is affordable for many tourists. Accommodation in Thailand is affordable for many tourists.
A műtéti beavatkozás megmentette a beteg életét.
The surgical intervention saved the patient's life. The surgical intervention saved the patient's life.
Átvitt értelemben.
Figuratively speaking. Figuratively speaking.
Csak mértékkel eszem fehér lisztet.
I eat white flour in moderation. I eat white flour in moderation.
A bor állítólag jó az egészségre.
Wine is supposed to be beneficial for your health. Wine is supposed to be beneficial for your health.
Törvénytelen pénzügyi forrásokat használtak.
They used illegal financial sources. They used illegal financial sources.
Az elnök feleségének a beszéde sokkal felemelőbb volt, mint vártuk.
The First Lady's speech was inspirational far beyond our expectations. The First Lady's speech was inspirational far beyond our expectations.
Egy hihetetlenül tehetséges előadó.
An incredibly gifted lecturer. An incredibly gifted lecturer.
Valaha megtörtént már veled, hogy elfelejtetted, hogy hány éves vagy?
Has it ever happened to you that you forgot how old you were? Has it ever happened to you that you forgot how old you were?
Nem tudtam ellenállni a kísértésnek, így ettem még egy gömbfagyit.
I couldn't resist the temptation, so I ate another scoop of ice cream. I couldn't resist the temptation, so I ate another scoop of ice cream.
Nevetségesen olcsó összehasonlítva a piaci árakkal.
It's ridiculously cheap compared to the market prices. It's ridiculously cheap compared to the market prices.
Nagy kihívást jelentő feladat nyomon követni egy 10 éves életében a változásokat.
It is a challenging task to keep track of the changes in a teenager's life. It is a challenging task to keep track of the changes in a teenager's life.
Hallottál a legújabb pletykáról?
Have you heard about the latest gossip? Have you heard about the latest gossip?
Egy teljesen új világ nyílik meg számodra, ha beszéled az angol nyelvet.
An entirely new world opens for you if you speak the English language. An entirely new world opens for you if you speak the English language.
Az iskolai jó jegyeiért kapott egy nagyszerű könyvet.
He got a great book for his good grades at school. He got a great book for his good grades at school.
Minden bankkártya lejár néhány év elteltével.
All bank cards expire after a few years. All bank cards expire after a few years.
Vonzóvá teszi a férfiakat a nyakkendő viselete.
Wearing a tie makes men look attractive. Wearing a tie makes men look attractive.
Az autóvezetés állandó figyelmet és felelősségteljes viselkedést igényel.
Driving a car requires constant attention and responsible behavior. Driving a car requires constant attention and responsible behavior.
A közösségi oldalak lehetővé teszik, hogy kapcsolatban maradj másokkal.
Social websites make it possible for you to stay in contact with others. Social websites make it possible for you to stay in contact with others.
Gordon nagy lelkűsége figyelemre méltó.
Gordon's generosity is remarkable. Gordon's generosity is remarkable.
Az emberek gyakran közömbösek, amikor természeti katasztrófákról hallanak.
People are often indifferent when they hear about natural catastrophes. People are often indifferent when they hear about natural catastrophes.
A tényeket figyelembe véve.
Considering the facts. Considering the facts.
A megfelelő képzettség az egyik legfontosabb tényező egy munkára való jelentkezésnél.
Proper qualification is one of the most important factors when applying for a job. Proper qualification is one of the most important factors when applying for a job.
Ha vártam volna rád, lekéstem volna a gépemet.
If I had waited for you, I would have missed my flight. If I had waited for you, I would have missed my flight.
Jeffrey megszállottja az extrém sportoknak.
Jeffrey is obsessed with extreme sports. Jeffrey is obsessed with extreme sports.
Először le kellene fektetnünk a szabályokat.
We should establish the rules first. We should establish the rules first.
Nagyon szeretek hasonló gondolkodású keresztény emberekkel beszélgetni.
I really enjoy talking with like-minded Christian people. I really enjoy talking with like-minded Christian people.
Eléggé kockázatos külföldre menni térkép vagy navigáció nélkül.
It's rather risky to go abroad without a map or GPS. It's rather risky to go abroad without a map or GPS.
Katie alázatos személyisége nagyon vonzó volt a fiúk számára.
Katie's humble personality was very appealing to boys. Katie's humble personality was very appealing to boys.
Biztos van rá magyarázat.
There must be an explanation for that. There must be an explanation for that.
Nem látok semmi észrevehető különbséget a viselkedésében.
I can't see any noticeable difference in his behavior. I can't see any noticeable difference in his behavior.
A kamerával ellátott mobiltelefonok széleskörű használata mindenki számára lehetővé teszi, hogy láthassák a világ különböző részeit.
The widespread use of cell phones with cameras makes it possible for everybody to see different parts of the world. The widespread use of cell phones with cameras makes it possible for everybody to see different parts of the world.
Egyáltalán nem számítottam rá, hogy látni fogom.
I haven't expected to see him at all. I haven't expected to see him at all.
Cserébe az odaadó önkéntes munkájáért a farmon naponta ellátták friss gyümölccsel.
In return for his dedicated voluntary work at the farm, he was offered a daily supply of fresh fruit. In return for his dedicated voluntary work at the farm, he was offered a daily supply of fresh fruit.
Az internet csatlakozás elérhető minden 5 csillagos hotelben.
Internet connection is accessible in all 5-star hotels. Internet connection is accessible in all 5-star hotels.
Az engedélyt megtagadták.
The permission has been declined. The permission has been declined.
Habozás nélkül beleegyeztek, hogy vesznek a fiúknak egy motort.
They agreed to buy their son a motorbike without hesitation. They agreed to buy their son a motorbike without hesitation.
A pályázatoddal kapcsolatban valamit meg kell veled beszélnem.
I need to discuss something with you regarding your application. I need to discuss something with you regarding your application.
Minden részletet elmeséltél neki az első házi készítésű quesadilladról.
Have you told him all about the details of your first homemade quesadilla? Have you told him all about the details of your first homemade quesadilla?
Bár kiváló pszichiáternek tartják, ő is követhet el hibát.
Even though he is considered to be an excellent psychiatrist, he can also make mistakes. Even though he is considered to be an excellent psychiatrist, he can also make mistakes.
Ella nem bírja elviselni, amikor a fiúk bámulják őt.
Ella can't stand it when boys stare at her. Ella can't stand it when boys stare at her.
Emma egy kifinomult és csinos fiatal hölgy.
Emma is a sophisticated and pretty young lady. Emma is a sophisticated and pretty young lady.
Ha összekeversz bizonyos vegyi anyagokat, káros gázokat hoznak létre.
If you combine certain chemicals, they produce harmful gases. If you combine certain chemicals, they produce harmful gases.
Sally azonnal megállt az autópályán, hogy megmentse egy sün életét.
Sally stopped on the highway at once to save the life of a hedgehog. Sally stopped on the highway at once to save the life of a hedgehog.
Hálásak vagyunk az állatmenhelynek szánt nagylelkű hozzájárulásodért.
We are grateful for your generous contribution to the animal shelter. We are grateful for your generous contribution to the animal shelter.
Julian végleg felhagyott a színészkedéssel Hollywoodban.
Julian gave up acting in Hollywood for good. Julian gave up acting in Hollywood for good.
A meleg őszek Svájcban negatívan befolyásolják a turizmust.
Warm autumns in Switzerland negatively affect tourism. Warm autumns in Switzerland negatively affect tourism.
Nem illik nyíltan a koráról kérdezni valakit.
It's inappropriate to directly ask someone about their age. It's inappropriate to directly ask someone about their age.
Alig tudott valamit Esther a politikáról a 20-as éveiben.
Esther barely knew anything about politics in her 20s. Esther barely knew anything about politics in her 20s.
Véletlen egybeesés volt, hogy ugyanazt a ruhát és ugyanazt a cipőt vették fel egyszerre.
It was just a coincidence that they put on the same clothes and the same shoes at the same time. It was just a coincidence that they put on the same clothes and the same shoes at the same time.
Ha félretennéd az érzéseidet, könnyebben megoldódna a helyzet.
If you put aside your feelings, the situation would be solved more easily. If you put aside your feelings, the situation would be solved more easily.
Ádám vérnyomása drámaian megemelkedett, amikor megtudta a fia matek dolgozatának az eredményét.
Adam's blood pressure dramatically rose when he got to know the result of his son's math test. Adam's blood pressure dramatically rose when he got to know the result of his son's math test.
Amit szeretnék neked mondani, nem olyan sürgős, mint a telefonhívásod.
What I would like to tell you is not as urgent as your telephone call. What I would like to tell you is not as urgent as your telephone call.
Számos áramszünet volt ezen a környéken mostanában.
There have been numerous power cuts in this area recently. There have been numerous power cuts in this area recently.
A játékvezető kizárta a kapust a játékból.
The referee disqualified the goalkeeper from the game. The referee disqualified the goalkeeper from the game.
A legtöbb sportoló példakép a fiatalok számára.
Most sports people are role models for youngsters. Most sports people are role models for youngsters.
Amélia állítja, hogy hallotta a kattanó hangot.
Amelia claims to have heard the clicking sound. Amelia claims to have heard the clicking sound.
Végül is megállapíthatjuk, hogy a hétvége a portugál cserediákokkal sikeres volt.
After all, we can conclude that the weekend with the Portuguese exchange students was a success. After all, we can conclude that the weekend with the Portuguese exchange students was a success.
Nem tudod elszigetelni a 10 éves fiaidat a való világ veszélyeitől.
You can't isolate your teenage sons from the dangers of the real world. You can't isolate your teenage sons from the dangers of the real world.
$1000 tudjuk támogatni a hajléktalan szállót.
We can donate $1,000 to the homeless shelter. We can donate $1,000 to the homeless shelter.
Helyettesítheted mandulatejjel a hagyományos tejet a diós muffin receptjében.
You can substitute almond milk with dairy milk in the walnut muffin recipe. You can substitute almond milk with dairy milk in the walnut muffin recipe.
Egyre inkább használja a modern technológia az új lenyomatot az emberek azonosítására.
Modern technology increasingly uses fingerprints to identify people. Modern technology increasingly uses fingerprints to identify people.
Gyakorlatilag mindent képes magától megcsinálni.
He is able to do practically everything by himself. He is able to do practically everything by himself.
Viszonylagos tapasztalatlansága ellenére Peter képes volt megoldást találni a problémánkra.
Despite his being relatively inexperienced, Peter was able to find a solution to our problem. Despite his being relatively inexperienced, Peter was able to find a solution to our problem.
Súlyos munkaerőhiány van ebben a régióban.
There is a serious lack of workforce in this region. There is a serious lack of workforce in this region.
Jordannek nagy szenvedélye a vitorlázás.
Jordan is extremely passionate about sailing. Jordan is extremely passionate about sailing.
Alapjában véve ő az a fajta ember, aki jó benyomást akar kelteni mindenkiben.
Basically, he is the kind of person who tries to impress everybody. Basically, he is the kind of person who tries to impress everybody.
Nem volt kielégítő az előadás tartalma.
The content of the lecture was not satisfactory. The content of the lecture was not satisfactory.
Pontosan ez az, amit tenned kell.
This is exactly what you need to do. This is exactly what you need to do.
Különböző okokból kifolyólag még nem kész erre a kihívásra.
For various reasons, he is not yet ready for this challenge. For various reasons, he is not yet ready for this challenge.
Nem változik meg a nők neve automatikusan az esküvő után.
After getting married, a woman's name doesn't automatically change. After getting married, a woman's name doesn't automatically change.
Az energia megtakarítás most az elsődleges prioritásunk.
Energy saving is our top priority now. Energy saving is our top priority now.
21 éves kor alatt az USA-ban nem megengedett az alkohol vásárlása.
You are not permitted to buy alcohol under the age of 21 in the U.S. You are not permitted to buy alcohol under the age of 21 in the U.S.
Szintén be kell vallanunk, hogy
It also has to be admitted that. It also has to be admitted that.
kicsit elfogult vagyok, mert Adele a keresztlányom.
I am a little biased since Adele is my goddaughter. I am a little biased since Adele is my goddaughter.
Fejben kell tartanunk, hogy
We need to keep in mind that. We need to keep in mind that.
ezek a tények valóban meghökkentőek.
These facts are, indeed, astonishing. These facts are, indeed, astonishing.
Ha nem enyhítenénk a nyomást az életünkben, könnyen depresszívé tehetne minket.
If we didn't alleviate pressure in our life, we would easily become depressed. If we didn't alleviate pressure in our life, we would easily become depressed.
Mi különbözteti meg az alkoholizmust az alkoholfogyasztástól?
What differentiates alcoholism from alcohol consumption? What differentiates alcoholism from alcohol consumption?
Az alvás megvonás miatt a gyerekek figyelmetlenek lehetnek az iskolában.
Children can become inattentive at school due to sleep deprivation. Children can become inattentive at school due to sleep deprivation.
Az elmúlt évtizedben.
In the last decade. In the last decade.
Darla tudatos döntést hozott.
Darla has made a conscious decision. Darla has made a conscious decision.
Jövő ilyenkorra már 5 éve fogok dolgozni ebben a gyárban.
By this time next year, I will have been working in this factory for 5 years. By this time next year, I will have been working in this factory for 5 years.
A kemény munkájának eredményeképpen Nikki időben tudta leadni a szakdolgozatát.
As a result of her hard work, Nikki could submit her thesis on time. As a result of her hard work, Nikki could submit her thesis on time.
Munkával kapcsolatos a kérdésed?
Is your question work-related? Is your question work-related?
Számos intézkedést lehetne hozni, hogy biztosítsuk, hogy ezeket a helyeket a turisták ne tegyék tönkre.
Several measures could be taken to ensure that these places are not ruined by visitors. Several measures could be taken to ensure that these places are not ruined by visitors.
Általában a gyerekek lelkesek, hogy több tudást szerezzenek a világról.
In general, children are eager to gain more knowledge about the world. In general, children are eager to gain more knowledge about the world.
Az egyetemi évek alatt ösztöndíjakat pályázhatsz meg, hogy finanszírozd a tanulmányaidat.
During your university years, you can apply for grants to finance your studies. During your university years, you can apply for grants to finance your studies.
Szándékosan néztem a filmet felirat nélkül, hogy gyakoroljam a spanyol nyelvet.
I intentionally watched the film without subtitles to practice the Spanish language. I intentionally watched the film without subtitles to practice the Spanish language.
Martin új könyvének a műfaja teljesen eltér az előzőektől.
The genre of Martin's new book is completely different from his previous ones. The genre of Martin's new book is completely different from his previous ones.
Egy ország jóléte főleg a gazdaságától függ.
The welfare of a country mainly depends on its economy. The welfare of a country mainly depends on its economy.
Éjszakára Amsterdamban szállsz meg.
Will you be staying in Amsterdam for the night? Will you be staying in Amsterdam for the night?
Nem hagyhatod el az épületet, amíg a rendőrök engedélyt nem adnak.
You are not to leave the building until the police officers give you permission. You are not to leave the building until the police officers give you permission.
Feltehetően legalább egy idegen nyelvet beszél.
Presumably, he speaks at least one foreign language. Presumably, he speaks at least one foreign language.
Néha úgy érzem, hogy láthatatlan vagyok, amikor beszélek, és senki nem figyel.
Sometimes I feel invisible when I talk, and nobody listens. Sometimes I feel invisible when I talk, and nobody listens.
Gary elbűvölt tegnap este a brilliáns ötleteivel.
Gary fascinated me with his brilliant ideas yesterday evening. Gary fascinated me with his brilliant ideas yesterday evening.
Az érveid nagyon meggyőzőek.
Your arguments are highly convincing. Your arguments are highly convincing.
Az időjárás különösen száraz volt a környékünkön mostanában.
The weather has been particularly dry in our area lately. The weather has been particularly dry in our area lately.
Őszintén csodálom a hozzáértésedet ezen a területen.
I honestly admire your competence in this field. I honestly admire your competence in this field.
Épp most készülünk indulni a karácsonyi jótékonysági vásárra.
We are about to leave for the Christmas charity fair. We are about to leave for the Christmas charity fair.
Biztos vagyok benne, hogy be fogom fejezni ezt a beszámolót május 14-ig.
I am sure I will have finished this presentation by May 14th. I am sure I will have finished this presentation by May 14th.
A verseny végén felfedték a győztes nevét.
They revealed the winner's name at the end of the competition. They revealed the winner's name at the end of the competition.
A felettesemnek tekintem őt.
I regard him to be my supervisor. I regard him to be my supervisor.
Manapság alig találkozom vele.
I hardly ever meet him these days. I hardly ever meet him these days.
Látták a medvét, ahogy megtámad egy párducot.
A bear was seen attacking a panther. A bear was seen attacking a panther.
Hűséges támogatásod sokat jelent a helyi közösségünknek.
Your faithful support means a lot to our local community. Your faithful support means a lot to our local community.
Nem láttam szemet ilyen lelkesnek egész életében.
I haven't seen Sam so enthusiastic in his whole life. I haven't seen Sam so enthusiastic in his whole life.
Bánj úgy másokkal, mint ahogy szeretnéd, hogy veled bánjanak.
Treat others the same way you would like to be treated. Treat others the same way you would like to be treated.
Bár ez egy távkapcsolat, mégis nagyon értékelem.
Although it's a long-distance relationship,
Sajnálom, hogy olyan nyersen reagáltam a felvetésedre.
I'm sorry I reacted to your proposal so harshly. I'm sorry I reacted to your proposal so harshly.
Az összes európai országba való ellátogatás a csapatommal olyan különleges lehetőség volt, amit nem akartam kihagyni.
Visiting all the EU countries with my team was a unique opportunity I didn't want to miss. Visiting all the EU countries with my team was a unique opportunity I didn't want to miss.
A dohányzásnak komoly következményei lehetnek.
Smoking can have serious consequences. Smoking can have serious consequences.
Ne érts félre, de ez a hozzáállás nem vezet minket a megoldáshoz.
Don't misunderstand me, but this attitude will not lead us to the solution. Don't misunderstand me, but this attitude will not lead us to the solution.
Köszönjük az eseményen való részvételét.
Thank you for your participation in the event. Thank you for your participation in the event.
Ha elég szerencsés vagy, megnyerheted a Karib-szigeteki hajóutat.
If you are fortunate enough, you can win the Caribbean cruise. If you are fortunate enough, you can win the Caribbean cruise.
Időről időre ír egy cikket a helyi napilapba.
He writes an article in the local daily paper from time to time. He writes an article in the local daily paper from time to time.
Az emberi kapcsolatok néha bonyolultak.
Human relationships are sometimes complicated. Human relationships are sometimes complicated.
Az iskolai vezetőség ragaszkodik hozzá, hogy a tandíj a hónap végéig be legyen fizetve.
The school leadership insists that the tuition should be paid by the end of the month. The school leadership insists that the tuition should be paid by the end of the month.
Arlo biztosan kölcsönadta a bicikliét valakinek, mivel nem találom a garázsban.
Arlo must have lent his bicycle to someone, since I can't find it in the garage. Arlo must have lent his bicycle to someone, since I can't find it in the garage.
Csak felületes a tudásom az Egyesült Államok történelméről.
My knowledge about the history of the United States is only superficial. My knowledge about the history of the United States is only superficial.
Tudna kérem pontos leírást adni a tolvajról?
Could you give me an accurate description of the thief? Could you give me an accurate description of the thief?
Esetenként mindenki szembenéz nehézségekkel az életében.
Once in a while, everybody faces difficulties in their life. Once in a while, everybody faces difficulties in their life.
Eléggé zavar, amikor az emberek hálátlanok.
It really bothers me when people are ungrateful. It really bothers me when people are ungrateful.
Jobb lenne felosztani a feladatokat.
It would be better to divide the tasks. It would be better to divide the tasks.
Megpróbált zsarolni, de nem hagytam.
She tried to blackmail me, but I didn't let her. She tried to blackmail me, but I didn't let her.
Ideadnád nekem az édes burgonyát?
Would you pass me the sweet potato? Would you pass me the sweet potato?
A vulkánkitörésről szóló hírek sokkolóak voltak mindenki számára.
The news about the volcano eruption were shocking to everybody. The news about the volcano eruption were shocking to everybody.
Te vagy itt a felelős a könyvelésért.
Are you in charge of accounting here? Are you in charge of accounting here?
Nem tudok egyszerre minden követelménynek megfelelni.
I can't meet all the requirements at the same time. I can't meet all the requirements at the same time.
Nem tudják abbahagyni a kérdezősködést az új barátomról.
They can't stop questioning me about my new boyfriend. They can't stop questioning me about my new boyfriend.
Egyértelműen támogatom azt az elgondolást, hogy kutyákat állatmenhelyekről fogadjanak be.
I am definitely for the idea of adopting dogs from animal shelters. I am definitely for the idea of adopting dogs from animal shelters.
Szeretek magamnak heti célokat kitűzni.
I like to set weekly goals for myself. I like to set weekly goals for myself.
Biztosan újra kellett vizsgázniuk, mert első alkalommal megbuktak.
They must have had to take the exam again since they failed for the first time. They must have had to take the exam again since they failed for the first time.
Tanácsos naponta 2-szer bevennie a gyógyszerét.
It is advisable that he should take his medicine twice a day. It is advisable that he should take his medicine twice a day.
A kutyánk be lett tanítva, hogy egyedül csináljon mutatványokat.
Our dog has been taught to do some tricks by herself. Our dog has been taught to do some tricks by herself.
Úgy tűnt, hogy Caroline zavarban volt, amikor azon a héten már másodjára dicsértem meg.
Carolyn seemed to be embarrassed when I praised her for the second time that week. Carolyn seemed to be embarrassed when I praised her for the second time that week.
A teljesítményemet gyakran befolyásolja az, ahogy érzem magam.
My performance is often affected by the way I feel. My performance is often affected by the way I feel.
Széles körben elterjedt hiedelem, hogy minél kevesebb szénhidrátot eszel, annál egészségesebb vagy.
It is a widespread belief that the less carbohydrates you eat, the healthier you are. It is a widespread belief that the less carbohydrates you eat, the healthier you are.
Ha ezek közül a lehetőségek közül választanom kellene, a világos zöldet választanám.
If I had to choose from these options, I would pick the light green one. If I had to choose from these options, I would pick the light green one.
Az idegenvezető azt mondta, hogy nincs felkészülve az aznapi városnézésre.
The guide told me that he was not prepared for that day's city tour. The guide told me that he was not prepared for that day's city tour.
Nagyon pozitív volt róla az első benyomásom.
My first impression of him was very positive. My first impression of him was very positive.
Ha van egy jó stratégiád, könnyen el tudod érni a céljaidat.
You can easily achieve your goals if you have a good strategy. You can easily achieve your goals if you have a good strategy.
A nyelvtanulás hosszú távú előnyökkel jár.
Language learning offers long-term benefits. Language learning offers long-term benefits.
Naponta hány órában foglal le a vezetés?
How many hours a day are you occupied with driving? How many hours a day are you occupied with driving?
Ki lesz a helyettesed jövő héten?
Who will be your deputy next week? Who will be your deputy next week?
Talán a hügge életérzés az, ami a dánokat a világ legboldogabb nemzetévé teszi.
Hygge is perhaps what makes Danish people the happiest nation in the world. Hygge is perhaps what makes Danish people the happiest nation in the world.
Mit tehetnék, hogy megvigasztaljalak?
What could I do to comfort you? What could I do to comfort you?
Szeretnék megköszönni mindent az egész csapat nevében.
I would like to thank you for everything on behalf of the whole team. I would like to thank you for everything on behalf of the whole team.
Laura mindig a gyerekekkel töltött minőségi idő mellett van, a moziba menés helyett.
Laura is always in favor of spending quality time with her children instead of going to the cinema. Laura is always in favor of spending quality time with her children instead of going to the cinema.
Az általad említett készüléket már megrendelték.
The device that you have mentioned has already been ordered. The device that you have mentioned has already been ordered.
Szeretnének néhány gondolatot megosztani azzal kapcsolatban, ami tegnap éjszaka történt.
They would like to share some thoughts about what happened last night. They would like to share some thoughts about what happened last night.
Attól tartok, hogy hiába tettem bele minden erőfeszítésemet ebbe a projektbe.
I'm afraid I put all my effort into this project in vain. I'm afraid I put all my effort into this project in vain.
Sokan úgy gondolják, hogy a kisállatok segítenek megbirkózni a stresszel.
It is widely believed that pets can help us cope with stress. It is widely believed that pets can help us cope with stress.
Olaszországról azt mondják, hogy a pizza szülőhazája.
Italy is said to be the home of pizza. Italy is said to be the home of pizza.
Továbbá bizonytalanok vagyunk a vizsgaeredmények kimenetelével kapcsolatban is.
Furthermore, we are also uncertain about the outcome of the exam results. Furthermore, we are also uncertain about the outcome of the exam results.
Feltételezem, hogy egyedül akar lenni, hogy a könyvírásra összpontosítson.
I assume she wants to be alone to be able to focus on writing her book. I assume she wants to be alone to be able to focus on writing her book.
A különböző országokból származó emberekkel való találkozás az élet egy teljesen új nézőpontját adhatja.
Meeting people from different countries can give you a totally different perspective on life. Meeting people from different countries can give you a totally different perspective on life.
Néha kisebb nézeteltérés van kettőjük között.
Sometimes there is a slight disagreement between the two of them. Sometimes there is a slight disagreement between the two of them.
Számít nekem a véleményed.
Your opinion matters to me. Your opinion matters to me.
Annak ellenére, hogy az időjárás előrejelzés mit jósolt, ma reggel még havazott.
In spite of what the weather forecast had predicted, it was still snowing this morning. In spite of what the weather forecast had predicted, it was still snowing this morning.
Az ösztöneim azt súgják, hogy ma este megszül.
My instincts say she will have her baby tonight. My instincts say she will have her baby tonight.
A körülményeitől függetlenül mindig számíthattunk rá.
We could always count on him, regardless of his circumstances. We could always count on him, regardless of his circumstances.
William fél a sötétben még akkor is, amikor nincs egyedül.
Even when he is not alone, William is afraid to be in the dark. Even when he is not alone, William is afraid to be in the dark.
Tudnál magyarázatot adni a hirtelen kiköltözésedre?
Can you give an explanation for your sudden moving out? Can you give an explanation for your sudden moving out?
Pár év múlva átveszem az apám cégét.
In a few years, I will take over my father's company. In a few years, I will take over my father's company.
Mindig az a benyomásom, hogy Carla azt akarná, hogy jobban tiszteljem a nézeteit.
I always have the impression that Carla wants me to respect her views more. I always have the impression that Carla wants me to respect her views more.
A diszlexia akadályozhat a tanulásban.
Dyslexia can hinder your learning. Dyslexia can hinder your learning.
Ha megvan a lehetőséged, hogy külföldön élj és dolgozz, ne szalaszd el.
If you have the opportunity to live and work abroad, don't miss it. If you have the opportunity to live and work abroad, don't miss it.
Nincs kétségem afelől, hogy megtartja az ígéretét.
I have no doubt that he will keep his promise. I have no doubt that he will keep his promise.
A fejlődő világ országaiban sok gyerek nem fogyaszt elég tápanyagot és alultápláltan nő fel.
Many children in third world countries don't consume enough nutrients and grow up malnourished. Many children in third world countries don't consume enough nutrients and grow up malnourished.
Carol váratlanul megkérdezte, hogy készen lennék-e egy előléptetésre.
Carol unexpectedly asked me if I was ready for a promotion. Carol unexpectedly asked me if I was ready for a promotion.
Igazán értékelem a fogyásodban való kitartásodat.
I really appreciate your persistence in your weight loss. I really appreciate your persistence in your weight loss.
Bármibe is kerül, májusra befejezem a tanulmányaimat.
Whatever it takes, I will finish my studies by May. Whatever it takes, I will finish my studies by May.
Leresztelhetnéd a sajtot, én pedig közben elkészítem a szószt.
You could grate the cheese and, in the meantime, I will prepare the sauce. You could grate the cheese and, in the meantime, I will prepare the sauce.
White úrra szavaznék, mert ő egy becsületes ember.
I would vote for Mr. White because he is a man of integrity. I would vote for Mr. White because he is a man of integrity.
Megérdemelsz egy hosszú szabadságot azok után, hogy az elmúlt hónapokban túlóráztál a munkahelyeden.
You deserve a long holiday after your extra hours at work in the last few months. You deserve a long holiday after your extra hours at work in the last few months.
Jó, ha senki nem siettet, és mindent a saját tempódban csinálhatsz.
It's good when nobody makes you hurry, and you can do everything at your own pace. It's good when nobody makes you hurry, and you can do everything at your own pace.
Ha a legjobb barátom nem lett volna, ez a buli nem lett volna ekkora siker.
If it hadn't been for my best friend, this party never would have been such a success. If it hadn't been for my best friend, this party never would have been such a success.
Csak egy vékony határvonal van aközött, hogy tanácsot adok, vagy megmondom, hogy mit csinálj.
There is only a fine line between giving you advice and telling you what to do. There is only a fine line between giving you advice and telling you what to do.
Bárhová is tettem a töltőmet, meg kell találnom.
Wherever I put my charger, I need to find it. Wherever I put my charger, I need to find it.
Ha Jason nem lenne, még mindig egyedül tölteném az estéimet.
If it wasn't for Jason, I would still spend my evenings alone. If it wasn't for Jason, I would still spend my evenings alone.
Akkor még csak csecsemő voltam.
I was just an infant at that time. I was just an infant at that time.
Ahhoz képest, hogy igazgató, nagyon visszahúzódónak tűnik.
Considering the fact that she is a director, she seems to be very reserved. Considering the fact that she is a director, she seems to be very reserved.
Lelki bátorításra van szükségük, máskülönben elveszítik a hitüket.
They need spiritual encouragement. Otherwise, they will lose their faith. They need spiritual encouragement. Otherwise, they will lose their faith.
Jimmynek mindig volt elég önbizalma.
Jimmy has always had enough confidence. Jimmy has always had enough confidence.
Feláldozta minden idejét, hogy segítsen a mentorának a könyvtárban.
She sacrificed all her time to help her mentor in the library. She sacrificed all her time to help her mentor in the library.
Ami engem illet, nem vagyok nagy focirajongó.
As far as I am concerned, I am not a big soccer fan. As far as I am concerned, I am not a big soccer fan.
Lehetetlen hipermarketben vásárolni éjfélkor, mert mind zárva van.
It is impossible to shop at hypermarkets at midnight because they are all closed. It is impossible to shop at hypermarkets at midnight because they are all closed.
Tulajdonképpen azt hittem, hogy magasabb lesz, mint te.
Actually, I thought he would be taller than you. Actually, I thought he would be taller than you.
Csak egy rövid ideig voltam otthonról távol.
I was away from home for just a brief period. I was away from home for just a brief period.
Ideiglenesen Chicagóban élünk.
We are temporarily living in Chicago. We are temporarily living in Chicago.
Egy jó nyelvtanár lépésről lépésre elmondja, hogy hogyan tanulj meg egy idegen nyelvet.
A good language teacher tells you how to learn a foreign language step by step. A good language teacher tells you how to learn a foreign language step by step.
A kommunikáció hatékonysága világszerte növekszik.
The effectiveness of communication is increasing worldwide. The effectiveness of communication is increasing worldwide.
A függetlenség és a magas életszínvonal nagyon fontos a mai társadalom számára.
Independence and high living standards are very important for today's society. Independence and high living standards are very important for today's society.
Lehet, hogy mindenki másnak megfelel a jövő hétfő a találkozó megtartására, de személy szerint nekem alkalmatlan az az időpont.
Holding the meeting next Monday may suit everyone else, but for me, personally, it is an inconvenient time. Holding the meeting next Monday may suit everyone else, but for me, personally, it is an inconvenient time.
Ezek a számok csökkenést mutatnak az értékesítés terén az előző évhez képest.
These numbers show a decrease in sales compared to last year. These numbers show a decrease in sales compared to last year.
Ha komolyan veszed ezt a levelező tanfolyamot, hamarosan grafikus leszel.
If you take this correspondence course seriously, you will soon become a graphic designer. If you take this correspondence course seriously, you will soon become a graphic designer.
Jó állapotban érkezett meg a csomag Svédországból.
The parcel from Sweden has arrived in a good condition. The parcel from Sweden has arrived in a good condition.
Az új kókuszos banános joghurtnak kellemes íze van.
The new coconut banana yogurt has a pleasant taste. The new coconut banana yogurt has a pleasant taste.
Az állatok gyakran hűségesebb barátok, mint az emberek.
Animals are often more loyal friends than people. Animals are often more loyal friends than people.
Ezt a kérdést jellemzően önkéntesek szokták feltenni.
This question is typically asked by volunteers. This question is typically asked by volunteers.
Gyakran kicserélik a jegyzeteiket, hogy ne hagyjanak ki semmit a professzor előadásából.
They frequently exchange their notes so as not to miss anything from the professor's lecture. They frequently exchanged their notes so as not to miss anything from the professor's lecture.
Értesítették őket, amint a nyelvvizsga bizonyítványt elküldték.
They were notified as soon as the language certificate was sent. They were notified as soon as the language certificate was sent.
Egy szülinapi tortát akartam neked sütni, de a hamburgi barátaink korábban érkeztek.
I meant to bake a birthday cake for you, but our friends from Hamburg arrived earlier. I meant to bake a birthday cake for you, but our friends from Hamburg arrived earlier.
Az utolsó pillanatban, épp amikor be akartam zárni az ajtót, a barátom Dan kijött a konyhából.
At the last moment, just when I wanted to lock the door, my friend Dan came out of the kitchen. At the last moment, just when I wanted to lock the door, my friend Dan came out of the kitchen.
A diákjaim képesek a legbonyolultabb feladatokat is megoldani.
My students are capable of solving even the most difficult exercises. My students are capable of solving even the most difficult exercises.
Úgy tűnik, hogy van egy nagyon kevés szerecsendió ebben a süteményben.
There appears to be a tiny amount of nutmeg in this cookie. There appears to be a tiny amount of nutmeg in this cookie.
Ahogyan érik az alma, úgy változik a színe.
As the apple ripens, its color changes. As the apple ripens, its color changes.
Tudtad, hogy a rooibos teának immunserkentő tulajdonságai vannak?
Did you know that rooibos tea has immune-boosting properties? Did you know that rooibos tea has immune-boosting properties?
Ha a beteg már ki tud szállni az ágyból, az általában a javulás jele.
A patient being able to get out of bed is usually a sign of improvement. A patient being able to get out of bed is usually a sign of improvement.
A 18. században a nők nem ismertek arról álmodni, bármi mást is csinálhatnának, mint hogy háziasszonyok legyenek.
Women in the 18th century didn't even dare to dream of doing anything else than being a housewife. Women in the 18th century didn't even dare to dream of doing anything else than being a housewife.
Néhány esetben az országok kisegíthetik egymást pénzügyileg, de ez nem gyakori jelenség.
Countries may help each other out financially in some cases, but it is not a common occurrence. Countries may help each other out financially in some cases, but it is not a common occurrence.
Egy új ház építése időigényes folyamat, de minden percét megéri.
Building a new house is a time-consuming procedure, but it's worth every moment of it. Building a new house is a time-consuming procedure, but it's worth every moment of it.
A fertőző betegségek könnyen elterjedhetnek a hideg időben.
Infectious diseases can be easily transmitted in cold weather. Infectious diseases can be easily transmitted in cold weather.
A rendőrség megerősítette, hogy a tüzet gyújtogatás okozta.
It has been confirmed by the police that the fire was caused by arson. It has been confirmed by the police that the fire was caused by arson.
A havazás valószínűsége nagyobb lesz az ország keleti területein.
The probability of snow will be higher in the eastern regions of the country. The probability of snow will be higher in the eastern regions of the country.
A statisztikák szerint az autizmussal születő gyermekek száma évről évre növekszik.
According to statistics, the number of children born with autism is rising year by year. According to statistics, the number of children born with autism is rising year by year.
A tapasztalatom alapján egy idegen nyelv hatékony tanulása legalább napi 1 óra gyakorlást igényel.
In my experience, learning a foreign language effectively requires at least 1 hour of practice every day. In my experience, learning a foreign language effectively requires at least 1 hour of practice every day.
Vannak különleges mobil alkalmazások, amelyek rendszeresen tájékoztatnak a legfrissebb időjárás előrejelzésekről.
There are special cell phone applications which regularly inform you about the latest weather predictions. There are special cell phone applications which regularly inform you about the latest weather predictions.
Meglehetősen kellemetlen helyzet volt, amikor először találkoztam a volt férjem barátnőjével.
It was quite an unpleasant situation when I first met my ex-husband's girlfriend. It was quite an unpleasant situation when I first met my ex-husband's girlfriend.
A meleg idő veszélyezteti a turizmust a síparadicsomokban.
Warm weather endangers tourism and ski resorts. Warm weather endangers tourism and ski resorts.
Marty és Rex nagyszerű munkát végeztek a nyelvoktató alkalmazásunk hanganyag felmondásával.
Marty and Rex have done a great job in doing the voiceover of our language teaching application. Marty and Rex have done a great job in doing the voiceover of our language teaching application.
Tudnod kell, hogy ez az információ szigorúan bizalmas.
You should know that this information is highly confidential. You should know that this information is highly confidential.
Jobban tennéd, ha óvatos lennél, máskülönben megsérülhetsz.
You had better be careful, otherwise you can get hurt. You had better be careful, otherwise you can get hurt.
Alig, hogy kiléptem az ajtón, megjelentek a kapuban az unokáim.
I had hardly stepped out the door when my grandchildren appeared at the gate. I had hardly stepped out the door when my grandchildren appeared at the gate.
Csak egy szelet torta maradt a hálaadási vacsora után.
There remained only a slice of cake after the Thanksgiving dinner. There remained only a slice of cake after the Thanksgiving dinner.
Érthető, hogy nem akarsz beleavatkozni.
It's understandable that you don't want to get involved. It's understandable that you don't want to get involved.
Szerinted ki fogja kompenzálni Daniellát a kárért?
Who do you think will compensate Daniela for her loss? Who do you think will compensate Daniela for her loss?
Semmiféleképpen nem Marshall a legjobb pályázó erre a pozícióra.
Marshall is certainly not the best candidate for this position. Marshall is certainly not the best candidate for this position.
Minden tanárnak magas oktatási színvonalat kellene fenntartania.
All teachers should maintain a high standard of education. All teachers should maintain a high standard of education.
A köretes tányér véletlenül kicsúszott a pincér kezéből.
Accidentally, the garnish plate slipped out of the waiter's hands. Accidentally, the garnish plate slipped out of the waiter's hands.
Egy non-profit cég fiatal önkénteseket toboroz.
A nonprofit company is recruiting young volunteers. A nonprofit company is recruiting young volunteers.
A cunami megjósolható lett volna, ha odafigyeltek volna mindazokra a jelekre, amelyek megelőzték.
The tsunami would have been predictable if they had paid attention to all the signs preceding it. The tsunami would have been predictable if they had paid attention to all the signs preceding it.
Az azonnali döntéshozatal nem tartozik az erősségeim közé.
Immediate decision-making is not one of my strong points. Immediate decision-making is not one of my strong points.
A kettőnk közötti együttműködés.
Collaboration between the two of us. Collaboration between the two of us.
Nem vagyok meggyőződve arról, hogy Carr tudja az éves autószervizének az időpontját.
I am not convinced that Carl knows the date of his annual car service. I am not convinced that Carl knows the date of his annual car service.
Alapvetően fontos minden orvos számára, hogy együtt érezzenek a betegeikkel.
It is essential for all doctors to have empathy with their patients. It is essential for all doctors to have empathy with their patients.
Kimondottan figyelmeztettem őt a túl sok zsíros étel fogyasztásának kockázataival kapcsolatban.
I have specifically warned her about the risks of consuming too much fatty food. I have specifically warned her about the risks of consuming too much fatty food.
Egy egész generáció sorsa megváltozhat egy háború után.
The fate of an entire generation can change after a war. The fate of an entire generation can change after a war.
A fejlett műholdas technológia ellenére a jégeső gyakran megjósolhatatlan.
Despite advanced satellite technologies, hail is often unpredictable. Despite advanced satellite technologies, hail is often unpredictable.
Venezuela sem kivétel.
Venezuela is no exception. Venezuela is no exception.
Érdekes módon néhány keselyűfajta először a csontvelőjét eszi meg az elejtett állatoknak.
Interestingly, it is the marrow of a killed animal that some vultures eat first. Interestingly, it is the marrow of a killed animal that some vultures eat first.
Feltételezem, hogy az ok, amiért nem jöttek el a házavató bulinkra, az az volt, hogy hamarabb el kellett indulniuk a repülőtérre.
I suppose the reason they didn't come to our housewarming party was that they had to leave for the airport earlier. I suppose the reason they didn't come to our housewarming party was that they had to leave for the airport earlier.
A falásrohamok szinte minden esetben végül elhízáshoz vezetnek.
In almost all cases, binge eating ultimately leads to obesity. In almost all cases, binge eating ultimately leads to obesity.
A gyerekek probléma megoldó képességeit egészen korán kellene elkezdeni fejleszteni.
Children's problem-solving skills should be developed from an early age. Children's problem-solving skills should be developed from an early age.
Az embereknek tanítani kellene, hogy hogyan kezeljék a konfliktusokat az élet minden területén.
People should be taught how to handle conflict in all areas of life. People should be taught how to handle conflict in all areas of life.